Hello and welcome to the DSP Leaders Summit on Edgenomics. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV, and coming up now is our Challenges and Opportunities Roundtable, where we'll be discussing the justification for telco edge computing. Now, beyond 5G hosting, where is the economic and business justification for edge investments? Is it sufficient to deploy computing resources and connectivity in advance of a compelling business case? And if not, are there any proven use cases that make the Edgenomics case for telcos? Well, let's find out what our guests think. And I'm delighted to introduce Jehanne Savi, SVP Innovation for B2B and Wholesale at Orange. Javier Benitez, Senior Network Architect, Strategy and Innovation for Colt Technology Services. Beth Cohen, SDN Product Strategies with Verizon. Michael Entner, Digital Transformation Officer, Telecommunications at Wind River. And Balaji Subramaniam, Director of Product Line Management for Blue Planet. Hello everyone, very good to see you all. Thank you for taking part in the round table. Now, we asked our viewers what they regarded as the main issues around telco edge, and from the feedback we've created a series of questions. So let's begin first of all with the initial premise. Is the market here now? Is there a sound economic rationale for investment today based on current market needs, or are we investing for future demands and use cases? Michael, perhaps I could start by asking you first.
So I would say that there is a demand for certain use cases. I also believe that we do need to build out infrastructure for future use cases. So currently what we're seeing as far as right now use cases would be something like virtualized VRAN, virtualized RAN, right, in the 5G space. We're doing that right now for Verizon and several other customers. The opportunity to build out the edge is here now in that space.
Thanks, Michael. And anybody else want to comment? Jehanne, please.
Yes, I would like to add about the B2B market that indeed we see their interest, we see their expectation. They are claiming for new use cases, very demanding use cases, by the way, that they are not able to serve today with the current technologies. So really there is a demand, and it is enhanced by the sanitary crisis, I would say, because it has make it all the more obvious for companies that they need to go for their digital transformation, and they have an opportunity to change their operating model thanks to these new technologies. So there's a real appetite that we see. So yes, definitely, I would say that it's now the opportunity window.
Great, thanks, Jehanne. And Beth, are we investing based on today's needs, or are we investing for what the promise of tomorrow?
I think it's both. As both Michael and John talked about, we see today use cases: IoT, healthcare, logistics, fleet management. These are the types of use cases that are needed here and now. Mac in particular, private Mac, that we have the tools, we have the technology, we're investing in these today. But of course, we're also rolling out 5G, which enhances the future use cases. So there's a lot of use cases that we're seeing. Companies want to get in on the ground floor, and then as the higher speeds come along, as we roll out those nationwide and globally with not just Verizon but other telecoms, that they'll be able to take advantage of those higher bandwidths and lower latencies.
And Javier, what are you seeing regards the the state of current use cases versus the future?
Yeah, I think it's on the same lines. So there are existing use cases. So maybe we bring in Colt the perspective of not being a mobile operator. So So for us, it has been in the beginning trying to deliver a new customer experience, so helping them in the digitalization transformation, something we started a few years ago already. So we come from that perspective of serving our business customers and trying to deliver a new customer digital experience. So this is a real use case, and on that area, we've delivered connectivity on demand, and then on top of that, we are using the edge in order to offer value-added services on top. So this is definitely a reality today. This is a real demand, and we are building on that need from our customers. But obviously, we work also on innovative ideas and propositions. At the moment, something that we will have to validate from a market opportunity perspective and also customer demand in the future.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thank you, everybody, for those comments. In that case, I think we should move on to our next question. And we're looking at enterprises. Telcos have got great faith in the enterprise market, and for those enterprises that have got mission-critical, low-latency requirements, Edge sounds great, but surely their best plan would be to bring the edge to their own premise and, not bother with the telco edge, cut out the telco edge. In a way, does this lead into private 5G opportunities? This all seems very confusing market with a lot of possibilities that's still probably not quite clear. Anybody like to comment on, where we might see the enterprise? Could we see the enterprise grow as telcos wish it to? Or could this be a market that actually just doesn't take off in the same way? Beth?
Yeah, so I think the market is definitely in an inflection point. So we've been following this market quite closely. We're hedging our bets. We have private 5G available. We have public 5G. Obviously, we have a significant investment in MEC. We also have a lot of investment in telematics and as I mentioned, which of course does not lend itself to being set on the customer's prem, right? Because it's trucks or cars or whatever, and they're moving. So I see that it's really both. There'll always be room and opportunity for both in the market. The use cases that are getting the most attention are, the sort of the sexy ones, but we're also seeing it being deployed in sort of unsexy ways, right? So we have customers that are deploying edge applications that don't necessarily require that low latency. So they're doing deployments of their applications at the edge on our boxes. So for example, our application edge product, which allows customers to put their applications on our boxes so that they don't have to worry about maintaining, an entire rack of equipment, in their 500 coffee shop locations. So those are sort of more fixed type applications, but we also have the Fleetmatic type applications as well.
Thanks, Beth. And Balaji, what's your view here? Is there a need for the telco edge amongst enterprises?
Absolutely. So one of the interesting things that we're also seeing is that customers look at this not just from purely latency perspective, they're also looking at it from a resilience perspective, right? And from that angle, if you look, it's quite important that they sort of work with the providers who have a much better nuanced view of where to place these things and how to handle in case of failures, because they are kind of designed for handling such things, if you will. So we kind of see both of that happening, and this trend towards looking at using the edge for resiliency purposes as well.
Thanks, Balaji. Javier, what are you seeing at Colt?
Yeah, one of the issues that we have when we talk about edge is how we define it, because edge at the end, from a telco perspective, at least from Colt perspective, is all around moving network functionality to software, right? So virtualization in the first place, and this virtualization, can be implemented on premise. And we've seen that with, for instance, Universal CPE. So Universal CPE has been our first attempt to deliver edge functionality to our customers. And this is running. The original use case was around SD-WAN, then adding firewall, then adding customer managed VNF. So we actually started on-premise edge. But this has evolved to other parts of the network, right? So what we typically call the telco cloud, the network edge, is also something that we just built. We are deploying proper telco cloud infrastructure in our telco nodes, and the service that we offer to the customer at the end is going to be a combination of functionality that is running on the on-premise edge. So our Universal CPE functionality that is running in our network edge, in our telco cloud, and pretty sure, I mean, customers will also have applications running on the public cloud. So yeah, I mean, edge is in different places, and from our experience, we have started on the far edge, on the customer edge. With Universal CPE, we are expanding into the network edge and trying to support really a complex environment where applications can be in different places, even public clouds, and trying to build a proposition that is attractive for our customers.
Thank you for that. And Jehanne, we know there's lots of edges. There's different definitions and locations of edges, but is there still a need for enterprises to use the telco edge?
Yeah, so definitely I said that it is now that the market is emerging and is already existing, and it's probably clearer on the customer edge, on the on-premise business, because we may add this supplementary promise on the real-time one, that is privacy, that is business continuity. And so then we address more mature verticals, more mature industrial sectors. And for example, the Industry 4.0 for its digital transformation. So it's really this combination of 5G that is cloud native, by the way, with edge computing that brings the value. And especially, let's quote for the industry particular use cases, the steering of robots that are very touchy interventions and that we want to delegate to robots for the safety of our people. Then on this particular example, the most challenging is not the steering of the robot, which is low latency but very low volume of data. It's the video and the analysis real time of this video, because it's huge volume of data that needs to be managed real time. So that's the application for health also, for example, in surgery. But today, the mature business, the mature vertical is indeed the industry. And here, what we must emphasize is that it's not only the big companies that are willing to manage their transformation for their own competitiveness, right? It's also the middle market and the SMEs. And it's very important for us also to serve the SMEs, including at political level, because it's 80% of the employment, right? So these SMEs, of course, they have not the same approach as multinationals. And I suspect that from their standpoint, what we call the customer edge, the on-premise, is maybe not affordable. So it will also support and justify from the commercial standpoint the network edge. And then, of course, combining 5G that serves the transmission of the data and its virtualized stack with the edge computing that supports the IT use case for the usage of the company. So definitely, I think that we have a market for both, maybe with different maturities depending on the segment of the market we address maybe with different maturities depending of the vertical we address. But definitely, and that's the good news, we have room for both.
Excellent. Always good to hear. Thank you, everyone, for those comments. Leads us nicely into our next question, and we're talking about opportunities here. There's plenty of opportunities we've been discussing about, but if telcos are going to avoid losing the edge service opportunities, because they have lost opportunities before with more agile companies and new companies on the scene, they're going to have to be agile themselves. They're going to have to be agile and responsive. So therefore, should telcos really be doubling down on their cloud native transformation now in order to avoid losing any potential edge opportunities? Who would like to, Michael? Perhaps you could have a stab at this one.
Sure. I think that's one of those it depends questions. If the telcos want to deliver traditional connections, right, communication pieces, I think that they can stay where they are, keep building out their edge, keep virtualizing their radio area networks, and push that outward to the customers. They can take that private 5G as an extension of their public 5G networks and keep driving that further and further towards the customer to where they actually need to consume it. There's also, though, an opportunity, what I really call like a mobile edge, right, beyond a fixed location, where you would actually have edge living within, say, an automobile. I consider that edge myself, because you're actually going there and hosting applications, delivering communications capabilities, providing security, and doing a plethora of other things. If the telcos see that as a real opportunity and start driving their edge in that direction, I think that they can pursue another revenue opportunity that they may not be pursuing right now. They also, if they want to do that, they're going to have to build out their applications capabilities and really get into the cloud native space, being able to deliver applications via Kubernetes, and really put in systems that allow them to develop, manage, and orchestrate those applications across the cloud and to the edge. So I think that there are several opportunities there. Lastly, I would say that in order for the telcos to make money, I do believe they will have to partner with several different organizations, whether they be software providers, hardware providers, or service providers, to deliver those critical services to people where they need them. Whether we're talking robotics or we're talking automotive or medical, it will definitely be a partnership type opportunity, and they will have to embrace a partner ecosystem. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Michael. Javier, is there a need for speed here? Do we need to move fast? Do we need to automate? Do we need to orchestrate? Do we need to sort of double down on our efforts? And all these things are really tied in with the cloud native transformation we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to do all of that, plus transform ourselves as an industry. I mean, you raise a very interesting question. Are we going to lose this edge opportunity, this telco cloud opportunity? That's a very good question, because there is some background in the telco industry. We tried in the past to offer IT cloud services. At least some of us called it, and I mean, we have to admit it was really not very successful. And maybe it was just we were not ready and we couldn't compete with the big cloud providers. What we have on the table right now is something different. It's a different type of cloud to deliver a different type of services. We need to deliver a specialized type of services in the cloud, which are network focused, that use the network as the key value proposition to the customer. At the end of the day, we have the reach, we have the low latency, we have the access network. We need to use that value in order to build a telco cloud on top. But at the end of the day, I mean, this requires working with new technologies, with virtualization, with software, with containers, etc. And this requires a big transformation. We all know that, and different telcos may be in different positions in that journey. But we are not going to be successful. We are not going to take this opportunity unless we are able to be agile and we are able to develop services and offer services in a similar way as our public cloud partners do that in their IT world. So definitely, in order to take the opportunity, we need to do a transformation. But hopefully, this is not going to be the same as with a traditional, let's say, IT cloud. This is going to be a telco-focused cloud where we will be able to make money at the end of the day and make this a successful business.
Great. Good points. Thanks very much for those. Jehanne, I'll come to you in a moment, but Beth, let me ask you first. Are we ready to seize the opportunity here?
I think we are. However, as Michael and Javier mentioned, we need to develop that ecosystem. I mean, we have the components, right? We have the cloud providers, the hyperscalers. We have the telcos. I'm not sure we quite have the developers yet. And I know we do have the SIs, right? The systems integrators, because I know we're working with them directly. And this is something I've said for a while. You know, the telcos need to create application-aware networks, right? And we are doing that. I mean, SD-WAN networks are much more application-aware. We're a lot sensitive about that, much more sensitive about that. We're building those tools. The real gap right now is that there's no network-aware applications. And that's where the developers, I think, are not quite at the table yet. And I know we're reaching out to them, but most of them are kind of aligned to the hyperscalers and really think development tools and don't tend to think about networks. And you know, as you move these applications out to the edge, and of course they're distributed. It's not just at the edge; they're distributed across the network. You really do need to think about the network. It's not just good enough to run it in a hyperscaler data center. You have to think about what components are put at the edge, what components are in the data center, and of course it's not just about latency. It's also about where it makes sense to put the compute in. So all of those, you know, factors need to be taken into consideration. And you know, I think the ecosystem is maturing, and we'll get there. But you know, we're ready. I think we're ready now.
Great, but yeah, and as you say, Beth, we still need more focus on application-aware applications and more awareness of that. Jehanne, please.
Yeah, maybe it echoes really to what Beth just said. I think we need to foster the adoption of the market, and we need to favor also the ramp up. And it means also to be able to address a broader market, especially I'm thinking about the middle market and the SMEs, as I already mentioned. And for that, the combination of 5G and edge computing, and so our ability to capitalize with one another is really key, because this kind of companies, they need quite turnkey solutions. They need quite packaged solutions. So either at the customer edge on premise with private networks and edge computing appliances on site, or in our network in the telco cloud with slicing combined with, once again, this edge computing capability, but rather on the network edge. We are combining a kind of turnkey, and as was emphasized previously, it's worth going until the application, and that's why partnering also with hyperscaler is quite interesting. So then for the companies we are addressing, they have the benefit from the scale effect, so they would have affordable solutions. Once again, both for network and IT, right? They will have, let's say, compliance and trust from their own customer standpoint, thanks to this, let's say, a telco guarantee. and at least they will have efficiency because they will be able to combine these technologies in a very synergic way with low integration needs and things like that. With this marketplace of applications, we can really dream of a complete value proposition, and I think it's very smart. It's very promising for this business adoption, whatever the size of the company.
Thank you, Jehanne. Thanks, everyone. Any more thoughts on that topic? If not, we'll move along to our next question then. What about deployment? What about making it easier for companies? As has just been mentioned, are there ways to make the deployment of mech equipment easier and maybe less expensive? For example, would some kind of plug and play server in a box approach make sense here to expand the market opportunities? Anybody got any thoughts about making it easier for customers and making the deployment for telcos as well slightly easier? Balaji, I think I might have seen you there. Yeah, Balaji.
Yeah, a couple of points there, right? Like one is kind of tagging on with what Michael and Jen and others were saying on the ecosystem play. As a natural extension, you see that standardization plays an important part there, right? Like if you want to make sure that things are plug and play, if you want to make sure that you attract a set of vendors who can easily deploy things or easily modify things, I think the standardization efforts are going to play a very, very, very important role there, right? And the second aspect I would also say is that focusing more on end-to-end complete automation, right? Not just bringing up the mech, but what kind of applications are you going to deploy on those devices? How do you have a CI/CD for those applications, right? And how do you do upgrades? How do you manage upgrades for the infrastructure? How do you manage upgrades for the applications themselves? I think those are some of the questions that definitely have an impact on the user experience, and having easier ways to sort of get them deployed, get them tested, and dynamically load them. That's going to help in this, I would say.
Thank you, Balaji. You raised some very good questions there. And Michael, I think you'd like to come in on this as well.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the terms in a box. I use it all the time. I mean, I'm constantly using it. But I probably shouldn't, because what happens is it misleads our customers and folks that I work with to a point where they think that it's easy to deploy edge, right? Or deploy 5G, right? We talk about 5G in a box. You hear about it all the time. I think the more appropriate term to use in our industry is solution stacking. Because if anybody has looked at one of these private 5G or virtualized RAN solutions, it's a number of boxes layered on top of each other, providing different services and interconnected in such a way that they create the edge, right? So what we're doing at Wind River is we're actually looking at creating what I call certified solution stacks. We're looking at the actual use cases, what the components are that are involved in that, the software required to run it, the services required to keep everything going, and then really try to offer that as something that is tested, that we know works, and that we know can be consumed in an easier fashion. So I think that that's kind of where we're heading. Now, it's not to say that we won't end up with a what we call, say, 5G in a box solution that comes in at $200 a box, and it's a small appliance, and it sits at a home site, right? Somebody's home, providing edge capabilities to a home, say around smart automation in their home. But I think we're going to take a little while to get there. It's going to probably take 2 to 3 years. But in the meantime, there's no reason why we can't look at what we're doing in the edge, cookie cutter it to a certain extent, and then start working with our customers to deploy things faster, cheaper, and better. At least that's my take on it right now, and kind of where we're coming from at Wind River.
Thanks, Michael. I promise to try and not use boxes from now on. I'll try and go remember stacks. Solution stacking. Yeah. That's what I need to focus on.
Yeah.
Good points. Beth, please.
So you're talking about universal CPEs, and I think there's a lot of legs there. I think, but there's an interesting dynamic happening in the industry. So as you probably are aware, Verizon offered a universal CPE solution. I know Orange did as well. Starting a few years ago. And so we have, service chains, solutions bundles of various network services, and now we've added applications. What we're finding is that the network service the providers of the firewalls and the SD-WAN and the routing type applications are, to a certain extent, I would say, fighting back by so the pricing of the universal CP, even though it shouldn't be more, is. It's the same hardware, literally, but because the vendors want to control that box, we're finding that there's a kind of a push-pull going on. Because if you think about it, the universal CP frees our customers from being locked into a given vendor of, firewalls, for example. And the vendors are, justifiably a bit nervous about that because, customers can and sometimes do say, well, I don't want this vendor anymore. I want this other vendor. So we're definitely seeing a shift in the market related to that. There's also been a lot of merging, like SD-WAN plus security. Not to go down the rat hole SASE here, but a lot of vendors are merging those functions together in a single application. So, as I said, market is very much shifting right now.
Thank you, Beth. And Javier, you'd like to come in with some views on this one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This idea of validated solutions or stacks. This may be applicable for very, very specific type of solutions. For instance, 5G. I can understand that this is quite a complicated setup, let's say, and you need to build validated solutions. But our perspective is a little bit different. What we want to build is or are platforms, and in this case, a distributed edge that is as much as agnostic to applications, to services, to vendors that can be flexible and dynamic in order to deliver different type of services. So the approach that we are taking in line to the universal CP, the deployment that we did, plus also the new telco cloud is to be as much as not agnostic as we can in terms of the services and the propositions that we build to offer that to customers. There was also another point on standardization, and we've had HCNFP running for a number of years already. Our experience is that it is still too complex. Too complex, you have a tendency then to go to integrated solution from vendors, which then bring you to a lock-in situation. So pretty similar to what we had in the old days pre-NFP. So you really wonder about the benefits, right? So this is why, even if we have a standardization, this doesn't mean that we don't get to complex type of solutions as I think is the situation today. This is why we are trying to work out alternatives, like for instance lean NFV, which is another approach where a much more simplified architecture is being proposed. But definitely, and I would be interested to hear from the other telcos here. I think that the technology that we are working with at the moment is still too complex, and we need to simplify it to make it fully successful.
Thank you very much, Javier. Jehanne, I know you wanted to come in on this one as well, but let's also add to this. Ask the question about do we need simplification?
Yeah, so definitely I think so. And when we say all in a box or server in a box, it's this turnkey need for the company at the end of the day, for the customer that is buying this solution, and that is only focused on its need or on its usage for its own transformation in its operating model. And so when we talk about the industry, what is their thought about their operating model? Of course, it comes from the transformation of their factory, the transformation of their production line. And here we prescribes, let's say, or it is at the origin of this transformation. It's the industrial integrator, the one that is providing the robots, for example, or the production line, generally speaking, and with connected machines, connected devices, and so on, with this equipment as a service type of offer. Then they also provide the automation, the IT, and maybe they go deeper and deeper. So we have really also a differentiator to find regarding these actors that could go to till our business more or less, to offer as a differentiator this capability for simplicity, for kind of turnkey solutions that will help that transformation either in their operating model or in their business model, because they pursue also to develop as a service business model these companies. So I would like to just to introduce this point as a kind of incentive, a new incentive.
Thank you, Jehanne. And we take on the incentive. We'll run with that later. Anybody else want to comment on the question of the need for perhaps more simplicity? Beth?
So I 100% agree with that, and obviously, one of the ways to simplify things is to move to a containerized model, and I know the telco industry has been struggling with that. The good news is 5G and O-RAN and the RAN activities have been able to spearhead that, but a lot of the traditional network services are still not containerized, and they're a long way from being containerized. And I think that's an area that we can really drive transformation and simplification of the network services.
Thank you, Beth. Any more views on the need for simplification? Michael?
I would add one more thing to this. I think that there is a huge opportunity for managed services around this. I don't think that enterprises have to go it on their own. I think there is an opportunity for telecoms, for hardware and software providers to come together to provide a unified service to customers that can be managed for them. I think that we are beyond the complexity of just plugging in a Wi-Fi access point. When we start talking about very complicated networking scenarios, very complicated containerized applications, I believe there is a need to do this. And so when we talk about simplification, sometimes simplification can be providing edge as a service instead of dropping all the equipment, hardware, and software on the enterprise and saying, go for it. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We are approaching the end of the program, but I do want to get another question in. I want to squeeze this final question in, and hopefully I can put this to all of you and get some brief thoughts on this one. There's an argument that suggests that the edge market is of more critical importance to the public cloud companies than it is to the telcos. So therefore, it stands, if you follow the argument, that innovation and then growth and market penetration will be driven by those public cloud providers, and that telcos will just, in the end, have no choice but to follow their lead, and that the innovation will come from outside of the telecoms community. Do we want to have some thoughts and comments on that slightly contentious statement? Jehanne?
Definitely, I do not agree. I don't think we will be followers, and strongly believe we will not be followers, because 5G is a game changer as edge computing is a game changer. and we cannot split them apart, let's say. So the hyperscalers, the telcos, they will be sidekicks in this transformation. I think the word is strong. It's more than partners. They will be sidekicks, right? And so this is, of course, for the benefit of our customer. This is acknowledging that we have complementary assets, that we have complementary strengths, and that our two businesses are really synergic. We have emphasized that we need to have end-to-end value proposal for the customer, and so we may bring this together and not to be opposed. I think we are now in a multi-cloud environment, multi-operator environment, as was emphasized by the other speakers. The interoperability and the seamless capability to orchestrate connectivity services and IT services, whatever the location, will be a strong added value. And here, of course, the telco have really a card to play. So both connectivity and, of course, 5G specifically with edge computing will be our core business equally in the years to come.
Thank you, Jehanne. A positive response there from you. Javier, what do you think? Is innovation going to be led, innovation in technology and services going to be led by the cloud companies, the telcos, or both?
Yeah, I think it's going to be both. I think innovation is going to happen on both sides. So the hyperscalers have obviously the role to play, but on the telco side, we own the network. We have the capability of deliver the last mile connectivity, the low latency, the network aware capabilities, and we need to build on top of that. And I think we see this happening already today. From our perspective, innovation is going to happen from building on top of our network assets, building this distributed edge that is going to be positioned, as I mentioned in the beginning, is going to be distributed between the on-premise and the network edge. And then from our perspective, we also need to build a digital customer experience wrap around this. So I think this is going to bring really the innovation to the next level from a telco perspective, being able to offer network plus distributed edge with a customer digital experience on top of that. So offering customers access through a portal, through an API, delivering services on demand in real time. I think this is where the innovation is going to happen from a telco cloud perspective.
Thank you, Javier. And Beth, what's your thoughts on the innovation leadership, shall we say?
I think to a certain extent it's both, but I think from working with the hyperscalers, they don't know what they don't know about networks. And yes, we clearly need to, telcos need to learn about applications, but networks, in my opinion, is the harder problem to solve, and distributed networks and edge networks are hard. And so some of the hyperscalers are venturing into those spaces, but as Javier said, they don't own the network. And so I'd say the telcos, if we take advantage of this opportunity, and now is the time to take advantage of it, can have the technology edge.
Thank you, Beth. Balaji, final thoughts from you?
Yeah. So I think the telcos are not going to be left on the side. They are going to innovate, and they are going to be on equal footing with the edge providers and the hyperscalers is what I feel, right? I think what is happening with this is that the telcos are now forced to look at the whole value chain, right? It is no longer just a network; it's network plus application. And what are all the pain points? Let's not forget that there is tremendous technological sophistication that has come out of telco, right? It's just that how do you tie that and tell a story about the value that you convey across the application plus networking. And I think with the advent of 5G and edge, telcos are now forced to look at it, forced to look at where the value is coming from and how we can sort of, package that together. So I think telcos will be leading is what I feel.
Thank you, Balaji. And finally, Michael.
I don't know. I think what I say on this might be a little controversial. I believe that the hyperscalers are losing what I call ticks. They are losing load processing in the cloud as it moves to the edge. So they're going to be forced into a scenario where they actually have to go further towards the edge to make their money. And I think that they will look to work with telcos, obviously, placing edge computing capability in towers, right, at the very far edge of the telco network. But I also think they're going to try to go around the telcos to a certain extent. And if you look at companies like Amazon and what they're doing right now with their Sidewalk application, they're actually looking to provide low power, small footprint, edge type connectivity by riding on top of that connectivity that's provided by the telecom or by a broadband provider. And I think that the telcos do have to be very careful. They need to figure out what they're doing in the application space and how they're going to make money there. Because if they don't, I think there's going to be a land grab in what I call the last meter. I come from the telco space too. I'm an ex-Verizoner. And what we used to always talk about was the last mile. And I think what I'm saying right now is the last meter. I think there's going to be a land grab in that space. And I think that if the telecoms don't figure out how to build out a very rich application delivery ecosystem at the edge and figure out how to manage it, smartly and make money at it, they could lose that business. Not to say that, telcos aren't innovating or they aren't going to be doing what they've always done in the past, but then they become just pipe. And that's, I think, where they don't want to be. That was my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Michael. And that is a great point to draw our discussion to a close, at least for now, because I'm sure we will continue this argument in the after show later on. Thank you all very much for participating and sharing your views and opinions. Now, if you are watching this on day 2 of our DSP Leaders Summit on Edgenomics, then don't forget to send us any questions or views you have on this subject, and we'll try and answer them and get to them in our live after show program, and that's later today. And please do take part in our online poll. You can find it below this video player window next to the Q&A app. All of today's programs are available to view online here at TelecomTV. I'll be back later with the after show when I'll be joined by my colleague Ray Lemaitre. Until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.